Have you ever found yourself awake in the stillness of night, wondering if you've truly discovered peace within your heart, or merely settled for a quiet life? Perhaps you've reached your 50s, 60s, or beyond, and yet the deep tranquility you expected still feels elusive. You're not alone. In fact, for many, the journey toward true inner peace intensifies after 50, becoming both a spiritual urgency and an emotional necessity. But here's the powerful truth. Your age isn't just a number. It's a milestone that holds incredible spiritual significance. What if everything you've lived through up to this point has uniquely prepared you for the profound peace you've always sought? Imagine that your entire life's experience has been guiding you to this precise moment, gifting you with the exact wisdom, perspective, and openness required to finally experience lasting tranquility. Today, we'll uncover together the spiritual secrets specifically tailored for those of us who have crossed the threshold of 50. You'll learn why traditional paths to peace might feel insufficient now, and how a deeper spiritual understanding can unlock tranquility like never before. Drawing from ancient Buddhist wisdom, cutting-edge psychological insights, and profound real-life experiences, this video will illuminate the path from restlessness to genuine serenity. So, stay with me. By the end of our journey today, you'll possess practical spiritual tools to quiet the storms within, find clarity amidst uncertainty, and embrace your age not as a limitation, but as your greatest spiritual strength. Are you ready to discover the peace you've always sensed was possible? Then let's dive in. Turning 50 often feels like crossing an invisible threshold. Something subtle shifts, not just in the body but in the soul. It's as if life gently whispers, "Now go inward." You may notice it in the quiet moments, the morning coffee that feels more like a meditation than a routine, or the ache in your chest when old memories surface uninvited. What's happening isn't random. It's a spiritual invitation. For decades, life was likely about doing, raising families, building careers, chasing dreams. But now, you may find yourself yearning to simply be. The external achievements start to matter less, and the questions grow louder. Who am I beneath all these roles? Have I truly made peace with my past? These aren't signs of crisis. They're signs of awakening. Buddhist teachings describe this shift as moving from the householder stage to the contemplative stage of life. It's a natural and sacred evolution. You're not losing purpose, you're being called into a deeper one. The distractions of youth begin to fall away, revealing what's always been waiting underneath, the stillness within. And yet, this transition can be disorienting. When the outer noise quiets, the inner noise often grows louder. Regrets, unhealed wounds, and unmet expectations can rise to the surface. This is where many retreat into routine, numbing distractions, or even despair. But what if this unrest is a spiritual compass, pointing you toward the peace you've never fully known? Psychologically, this phase is often called the second adulthood or encore life. Studies show that people over 50 begin seeking more meaning, not just more time. They desire depth over breadth, authenticity over achievement. It's no coincidence that spiritual seeking often accelerates during these years. But here's the secret. Inner peace doesn't come from resolving every problem. It comes from learning to meet life exactly as it is, with open arms and a soft heart. After 50, you're finally equipped to do just that. Why? Because life has humbled you. And humility in spiritual terms is not weakness, it's clarity. You begin to see that peace isn't found in controlling life, but in surrendering to it. Not as a resignation, but as a dance. And with every passing year, your rhythm becomes more intuitive, more sacred. You start to recognize that the things you used to resist, loss, aging, impermanence, are actually the gateways to something timeless. And maybe, just maybe, you sense that the best part of your spiritual journey is only beginning. If this resonates with your own turning point, let me know in the comments below. Your reflection might light the path for someone else too. In our younger years, control feels like power. We strive to master our schedules, our finances, our relationships, even our emotions. But after 50, many begin to sense a deeper truth. The pursuit of control often robs us of serenity. And ironically, It's only when we loosen our grip that peace finally begins to emerge. Think about the last time life didn't go according to your plan. Maybe it was a health scare, a retirement that felt emptier than expected, or a loved one who changed in ways you didn't anticipate. At first, these moments can feel like spiritual ambushes. But what if they're actually sacred disruptions, designed to guide you inward? Buddhism teaches that suffering comes not from what happens, but from our resistance to it. The tighter we cling, the more we ache. But when we soften, when we say, "I don't have to understand everything to trust something deeper," we begin to align with life rather than fight it. This surrender is not defeat, it's spiritual maturity. Take, for instance, the story of a woman named Evelyn, who after retiring at 62 felt completely unanchored. Her identity had always been tied to her job. But as she sat in her backyard one morning, overwhelmed and anxious, a hummingbird flew so close she could feel the breeze from its wings. In that instant, something shifted. She realized that maybe she didn't need to rush to fill the void. Maybe the void was the invitation. From that day on, Evelyn practiced letting go of her need to figure it all out. She stopped resisting her stillness and began to embrace it. Over time, she found that what she feared was empty space was actually sacred space, ripe with presence, clarity, and unexpected joy. Psychologists now affirm what spiritual teachers have said for centuries. The illusion of control is a major cause of anxiety. Letting go, what some call radical acceptance, is a powerful antidote. It's not passive, it's active alignment with reality. And for those over 50, it becomes more accessible because life itself becomes the teacher. There's wisdom in your weariness. There's peace in no longer needing to be right, to win, to know everything. There's beauty in learning to breathe with the unknown. The sooner you embrace this, the sooner your life stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like a sacred flow. So next time you catch yourself tensing up, trying to fix, plan, or resist, pause. Place your hand over your heart and whisper, "I trust what I can't yet see." That simple act may open a door to peace wider than any plan ever could. If this idea speaks to your journey, give this video a like so it reaches others who need it too. In a world obsessed with noise, news feeds, alerts, endless conversation, silence can feel uncomfortable, even threatening. But for those over 50, silence often becomes not just appealing but essential. It's where your soul finally gets to speak. Why does silence become more important as we age? Because we begin to realize that most of the answers we sought in the outer world were actually waiting within. And silence is the bridge between your mind and your spirit. It's the sacred pause where truth can rise to the surface, unfiltered by ego or expectation. Spiritual traditions across the globe honor silence. In Buddhism, noble silence is practiced to foster mindfulness and deep inner clarity. In Christianity, contemplative prayer emphasizes stillness as the way to connect with the divine. Even modern neuroscience agrees. Studies show that intentional silence can reduce stress, improve memory, and enhance emotional regulation. Silence isn't emptiness, it's restoration. Consider the story of Mark, a 58-year-old widower who felt emotionally lost after his wife passed. He couldn't tolerate the quiet of their now empty home, so he filled it with television, phone, calls, errands. But one night, exhausted, he sat in complete silence. He lit a candle, closed his eyes, and simply breathed. What followed wasn't dramatic, but it was sacred. Tears came, and with them a sense of being held, not by anyone visible, but by something vast and loving. That night changed everything for Mark. He began to take silent walks every morning, no phone, no podcasts, just his breath and the birdsong. Over time, grief gave way to gratitude. He hadn't escaped the silence, he had entered it. And in doing so, he found a new kind of presence. For many, silence becomes a spiritual companion after 50. Not a void to avoid, but a space to inhabit. And if you're feeling restless in your silence, that's okay. It means the deeper layers of your soul are waking up. Let them. Let the quiet carve out the noise until only your true voice remains. There's a Buddhist proverb that says, "Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. But those answers don't scream, they whisper. And to hear them, you must slow down enough to listen. Try this. Each day, even for just 5 minutes, sit in silence. No distractions, just breathe and be. Don't search for peace. Allow it to find you. Over time, that stillness becomes your sanctuary, your spiritual hearth, and maybe, just maybe, the silence you once feared will become the friend you can't live without. By the time we reach 50, most of us carry an invisible backpack, stuffed not with objects but with emotional weight, regrets, resentments, words we wish we'd said or wish we hadn't. It's heavy, isn't it? But what if I told you that real inner peace often begins with the quiet courage to forgive? Forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened, it's about releasing the hold it has on your heart. As the spiritual teacher Jack Kornfield once said, forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better past. It's not a denial of pain. It's a decision to no longer let that pain define you. Think of Margaret, a 65-year-old woman who hadn't spoken to her sister in over a decade. The fallout had been bitter and complex, but the silence had turned into sorrow. One day, while journaling, Margaret wrote a simple line, "I choose peace over being right." Something inside her shifted. She didn't need to reconcile every detail. She just needed to put down the weight. She reached out with a handwritten letter. Whether her sister responded wasn't the point. Margaret felt free. That's what forgiveness does. It liberates the forgiver. From a psychological perspective, forgiveness is one of the most healing choices we can make. Studies show it reduces anxiety, improves physical health, and even increases longevity. It literally lightens the body and the soul. Why? Because bitterness creates tension. Forgiveness invites release. Spiritually, forgiveness is an act of alignment. It says, I'm no longer a prisoner of the past, I am present, awake, and whole. You don't need the other person to change. You only need your heart to soften. And yes, it may take time, but every step toward forgiveness is a step toward freedom. What about forgiving yourself? That's often the hardest part. Maybe you weren't the parent, partner, or friend you wanted to be. Maybe you made choices that ripple through your memories like regretful echoes. But here's the truth. You were doing the best you could with the awareness you had. And now you can choose differently. That's redemption. That's growth. Try this. Close your eyes and bring to mind someone you haven't forgiven, maybe even yourself. Then, quietly say, I am willing to release you from my story of suffering. You don't have to feel it fully yet. Just the willingness opens the door. Forgiveness after 50 isn't a luxury, it's a spiritual necessity. Because you deserve the peace that comes from setting down what was never meant to be carried for a lifetime. If you've ever wrestled with forgiveness, share your story below. It might help someone find their own freedom. For much of life, our worth is measured by what we do, the titles we earn, the goals we accomplish, the busyness we maintain. But after 50, something begins to shift. The question isn't, what am I achieving? But, why am I here? This isn't a crisis. It's a sacred recalibration. When productivity no longer feels fulfilling, it's easy to feel lost. But this moment of uncertainty is not emptiness. It's spaciousness. It's your soul making room for something deeper. Purpose not based on output, but on essence. You may find yourself pulled toward things that once seemed unimportant. Sitting with a friend through grief, volunteering at a shelter, starting a creative hobby you used to love. These aren't distractions. They're whispers from your soul, guiding you back to your truest path. Buddhism teaches that Dharma, your unique spiritual purpose, isn't a job title or a role. It's the energy you bring into the world. A calm presence, a listening heart, a wise word. After 50, your Dharma often becomes clearer, because ego quiets and awareness deepens. Take Carlos, for example, a retired dentist who felt useless after leaving his practice. But one day, he began teaching mindfulness to young boys at a local community center. I'm not fixing teeth anymore, he said, but I'm helping them learn how to breathe through pain. That became his new purpose, and his joy returned. Purpose after 50 doesn't need to be grand. It just needs to be real. Ask yourself, what breaks my heart open? What makes time disappear? What feels like love when I do it? Your answers may surprise you, and they'll always point you home. Psychologists now refer to this phase as generativity, the deep desire to give back, to plant seeds for the future. It's less about legacy and more about love. It's the quiet power of presence, the wisdom you share without even trying. You are not your resume. You are a soul with a rhythm, a wisdom and a calling, uniquely yours. And the most extraordinary thing, that purpose is likely more powerful now than ever, precisely because of the life you've lived. So if you're feeling aimless, don't rush to fill the gap. Sit with it. Ask it questions. Let it lead you inward. Because your purpose isn't lost, it's just waiting for your stillness to be heard. If this idea of soul purpose speaks to you, give this video a like so others can find this message when they need it most. There comes a moment, often after 50, when you realize that life is not a ladder to be climbed, but a river to be surrendered to. Everything you once thought was permanent, health, roles, possessions, relationships, begins to shift. And while this can bring grief, it can also become your greatest teacher. Impermanence isn't cruel. It's clarifying. It shows us what truly matters. Buddhist teachings call this anicca, the principle that everything is in a state of constant change. At first, this can feel unsettling. We want things to stay as they are, especially when they're good. But impermanence is also the reason life is so precious, because it ends, it matters. Think of a tree in autumn. It doesn't resist the falling leaves. It doesn't panic as the branches bare. It knows winter is not death. It's preparation for new life. You too are allowed to let go of people, of seasons, of versions of yourself that no longer fit. Consider Janet, who spent decades curating the perfect home, raising children, managing everything with precision. But when her youngest moved out and her health began to decline, she faced a profound emptiness. At first, she tried to fill it with projects. Then, one day, she sat on her porch, watching the wind carry away dry leaves. She whispered, "I release what no longer needs to be mine." In that simple act, she felt something lift. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means no longer clinging. It's honoring what was, while making space for what is yet to come. Psychologically, this is part of what researchers call ego transcendence, the ability to loosen the grip on identity, achievement, and control. It allows older adults to experience more peace and contentment than younger generations, precisely because they stop demanding permanence from a world that cannot give it. Spiritually, letting go is not a loss. It's a return to essence, to spaciousness, to the part of you that exists beneath all titles and timelines. And ironically, the more you release, the more you receive clarity, compassion, and calm. Here's a practice. Each night before sleep, close your eyes and say, softly, "I bless and release this day." Let go of what you didn't finish, fix, or figure out. Trust that nothing essential can be lost. What's truly yours will stay. Everything else was only ever passing through. Because the secret is, when you stop clinging to life, life, finally, has room to embrace you. After 50, time begins to feel different. Days can seem shorter, years quicker. Moments pass with a strange mixture of speed and stillness. This shift is not just biological, it's spiritual. You begin to see that the only place true peace exists is in the present moment. Yet, being fully present is harder than it sounds. Our minds love to wander, to the past we can't change or the future we can't control. But presence isn't about perfect focus, it's about gentle returning. Again and again. It's about becoming a soft observer of life rather than a hard driver of it. Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it." But presence isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It waits patiently like sunlight through the trees for you to notice. Think about an ordinary moment, drinking tea, folding laundry, watering plants. These aren't distractions from life. They are life. And when done with presence, they become sacred rituals. You don't have to go to a monastery to be spiritual. You just have to show up fully to this breath, this task, this now. Take Leonard. For example, a 72-year-old man who once ran a successful law firm. After retiring, he felt aimless until he began practicing mindfulness in his garden. "It's the first time in my life I've truly noticed the way a bee hovers, the way tomatoes ripen, the way soil smells after rain," he shared. "I used to think peace was a goal. Now I know it's a moment." Presence heals. It dissolves anxiety because anxiety lives in the future. It soothes regret because regret lives in the past. When you root into now, you step out of time's tug and into eternity's embrace. From a scientific standpoint, presence, often cultivated through mindfulness practices, has been shown to lower blood pressure, enhance memory, and if presence is something you're learning to embrace, let me know in the comments. Your journey might help someone else come back to their own now. At some point after 50, solitude shifts from something we avoid to something we crave. But for many, that shift can feel confusing. The house gets quieter, the calendar emptier, friends move away or pass on, children grow into their own lives, and suddenly, we're left with a question we haven't asked in years. Who am I when I'm alone? Solitude and loneliness aren't the same. Loneliness is the ache of disconnection. Solitude is the balm of returning to yourself. And the path from one to the other is often a spiritual one. In Buddhist practice, solitude is not seen as isolation, but as intimacy, with your breath, your thoughts, your inner landscape. It's where you discover not just quietness, but clarity. Not just space, but strength. Meet Elaine, a 68-year-old who had been married for 40 years when her husband passed. The loneliness was crushing. For months, she couldn't sit in their living room without crying. But slowly, she began creating small rituals, lighting a candle each morning, journaling by the window, listening to classical music in the evening. Over time, her grief softened, and something beautiful emerged. She didn't stop missing him, but she started meeting herself. "I thought I'd lost everything," she said, "but I found someone I'd forgotten, me." The truth is, many of us were never taught how to be alone with ourselves. We were taught to distract, to entertain, to serve others. But after 50, solitude becomes not just healing, it becomes holy. It's where you reconnect with your true essence without the noise of roles and expectations. Psychologically, embracing solitude increases self-esteem, emotional resilience, and even creative insight. Spiritually, it's where the soul recharges. Great mystics, sages, and teachers have always retreated into silence and solitude to hear what can't be spoken aloud. So how do you move from loneliness to sacred solitude? Begin with simple presence. Take yourself on quiet walks. Sit on your porch and watch the clouds. Write letters to your younger self. Speak kind words to the mirror. These aren't small things. They're sacred acts of self-witnessing. And when the loneliness creeps in, don't run. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Ask it what it wants to teach you. Often it's not trying to punish you, it's trying to lead you home. Remember, being alone doesn't mean being unloved. It means learning to love yourself in ways no one else ever could. And once you do, solitude stops feeling like silence and starts feeling like song. If you found unexpected strength in solitude, leave a comment. It may help someone feel less alone on their own path. By the time we reach our 50s and beyond, our hearts have likely been both broken and healed. More times than we can count. We've lost loved ones, faced personal failures, endured transitions, and through it all, something extraordinary often begins to emerge. Compassion, not as a reaction, but as a way of being. This is the hidden gift of aging. The heart grows softer, not weaker. We become less concerned with being right, and more interested in being kind. We recognize suffering more easily, in others and in ourselves, and that recognition can become a sacred turning point. In Buddhist thought, compassion is seen as one of the highest spiritual virtues. It's not pity. It's presence. It's the deep wish that all beings, yourself included, be free from suffering. After 50, this wish often becomes more than a concept. It becomes a calling. Take Norman, a retired military veteran who once prided himself on stoicism. But in his 60s, after witnessing a friend's battle with cancer, something in him broke, open. I realized I'd spent most of my life guarding my heart, he said. Now I want to spend the rest of it opening it. He began volunteering at a hospice center, not to fix, but simply to be present. And in that space, he discovered a tenderness he never knew he had. Compassion isn't loud. It doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it's holding the door a little longer, calling someone you've been meaning to, or speaking kindly to yourself after a mistake. These small acts become powerful prayers. From a psychological perspective, cultivating compassion, especially self-compassion, improves mental health, reduces chronic stress, and increases emotional well-being. It literally rewires the brain toward peace. Spiritually, compassion is the recognition of our shared humanity. It softens the boundaries between me and you. It allows us to see not just what others do, but what they carry. And after 50, having carried so much ourselves, we're uniquely equipped to meet others where they are. Here's a practice. Each day, choose one person. Maybe someone you love, maybe someone you struggle with, and silently say, "May you be free from suffering. May you feel safe. May you live in peace." Then say it to yourself. Do this for a week. Watch how it changes the texture of your heart. Because the deeper truth is this: peace isn't just something we find. It's something we give. And every time we choose compassion over judgment, softness over hardness, presence over distance, we become instruments of that peace. If you've experienced your heart opening with age, share your story below. It may help others see that softness is not weakness, but sacred strength. By now, something inside you may be stirring, a sense that peace isn't just something to chase, but something you already carry. And that feeling, that's your soul beginning to take the lead. In the first half of life, many of us live from the outside in. We adopt roles, meet expectations, and chase definitions of success handed to us by others. But after 50, the pull reverses. We begin to live from the inside out. And this is where soul alignment begins. Your soul doesn't care about appearances. It cares about authenticity. It nudges you toward what feels true, even when it's uncomfortable. It whispers when something is off. It sings when something is right. And if you've ever had a moment, no matter how fleeting, when you felt utterly alive, utterly yourself, that was your soul speaking. Buddhist and Hindu traditions often describe this shift as moving from the ego self to the true self. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And with every year, every scar, every softened edge, you return a little more to that original self. Elaine, a 70-year-old artist, didn't paint for decades. Life got busy. She told herself she wasn't good enough. But after a quiet birthday alone, she pulled out her old brushes. "It was like meeting a part of me I had buried," she said. Now she paints every day, not to impress, but to express. "It feels like I'm finally living in rhythm with who I really am." Living from the soul doesn't require radical change. It requires honest alignment. It's choosing what resonates over what merely pleases. It's saying no to what drains you, and yes to what lights you up. It's trusting your intuition, your deepest knowing, even when logic protests. Psychologists call this self-actualization. Spiritual teachers call it awakening. But whatever name you give it, the result is the same. Peace, not as a passive state, but as a radiant inner power. Here's a soul reflection. Ask yourself, what do I know is true about me that I've been afraid to live out loud? Write it down, speak it aloud. Then take one small step in its direction, because living from the soul isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about choosing depth over display, truth over comfort, alignment over applause, and the older you get, the easier it becomes to shed what no longer fits and finally, walk your own sacred path. If any part of this feels like a homecoming for your spirit, let others know in the comments. You never know who else is waiting for that same permission. Gentle practices to invite inner peace after 50. Now that we've explored the deeper spiritual landscape of life after 50, let's ground this wisdom into daily life. These aren't rigid routines or complex systems. They're soft, nourishing practices, each one designed to gently shift you from restlessness to presence, from noise to stillness. Try them one by one. Let them become invitations, not obligations. Let peace come not as a reward, but as a rhythm. The morning silence ritual. Each morning before reaching for your phone or turning on the news, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Place one hand on your heart, the other on your belly. Just breathe. Let the silence hold you. This practice trains your nervous system to begin each day in peace rather than panic. Over time, these 5 minutes become your anchor. The letting go evening. Whisper before bed. Reflect on your day. What felt heavy? What clung to your thoughts? Close your eyes and softly say, "I bless and release this." Imagine placing that moment in a stream and watching it drift away. This simple practice helps unhook the mind from unresolved tension and invites restful sleep. The compassion breath. When you feel irritation or anxiety, pause, inhale slowly and think, "May I be kind to myself in this moment." Exhale and think, "May others find peace as well." This turns emotional reactivity into a moment of sacred compassion, both inward and outward. The Soul Check Journal. Keep a small journal by your bedside. Each night, write one answer to this question. What felt most true to me today? It might be a moment, a thought, a sensation. Over time, this journal becomes a map to your soul's deepest desires and truths. The 10-minute solitude sanctuary. Designate 10 minutes each day to be completely alone. No phone, no tasks, no stimulation. Sit on your porch, take a walk, light a candle, and breathe. Let the space simply be solitude. When chosen intentionally, becomes a spiritual bath. It's where your true self re-emerges. The forgiveness. Flame, write the name of someone you struggle to forgive, including yourself, on a small piece of paper. Hold it with intention and say, "I release you from the story I've carried." Then safely burn or tear the paper. Let the act symbolize your willingness to heal, even if full forgiveness takes time. The presence bell, choose a recurring eye. Event, boiling water, hearing a bird, red traffic lights, as your presence bell. Each time it happens, take one mindful breath and ask, "Am I here or lost in thought?" This playful practice turns daily life into a spiritual teacher, constantly calling you back to now. These aren't just exercises, they're quiet revolutions. Over time, they rewire the heart and soften the edges of daily life. You don't have to master them all. Just begin. Peace doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives breath by breath, choice by choice. And remember, the peace you're seeking is not somewhere far away. It's waiting for you in the next breath you take. If you've made it this far, pause and take a deep breath. Let it settle in. Everything you've lived through, every joy and heartbreak, every turning point and quiet realization has brought you to this sacred threshold. The journey beyond 50 is not a winding down. It's a waking up. You are not too late. You are right on time. Inner peace is not something you have to earn. It's your natural state, buried perhaps beneath years of striving and noise, but never lost. The beauty of being 50, 60, 70 and beyond is that you now have the perspective, the wisdom and the depth to uncover it. You've seen enough of life to know what truly matters, and you've suffered enough to soften. That softness is your strength. That stillness is your sanctuary. Now the invitation is this: stop chasing and start allowing. Let go of the need to prove. Trust the wisdom rising from within. Live from your soul, not your schedule. And when fear whispers, "Is it too late?" answer gently, "It's just beginning." The practices we've explored, presence, forgiveness, compassion, solitude, are not decorations, they're tools. They're sacred keys to a door that's been within you all along. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be present. So I'll leave you with one final open-hearted question. What if the most peaceful, powerful, spiritually alive version of you is still on her way? And what if she's arriving now? If this message stirred something in you, like this video, to keep it in your heart. Subscribe if you want more reflections like this on your journey, and watch the next video on how to love your life again after loss, even when it still hurts, to continue this path of awakening. Your soul has been waiting. Let's walk forward together.